Hello, ABHMS family. I am Minister Dr. Shante Barrett, and I have the pleasure of sitting here with the Reverend Dr. Marie Onwubuariri. And Marie is the Director of Intercultural Ministries here at ABHMS. But I'll let her tell you a little bit more about herself. How you doing, Marie?
I'm doing well. Good to be here with you, Shante.
I'm glad you're here. So tell us a little bit about yourself, some background information for the audience.
Okay. Well, I'll start from the beginning, way back when I was born in the Philippines. And I immigrated to the United States when I was almost 2 years old, 1.5,
Okay.
with my brothers and my parents. And so I do still consider that my home country, although my memories of it is pretty faint. But we came here to the United States, to New York City, Queens specifically, and found our way pretty soon to an American Baptist congregation. Although my faith heritage is both Catholic and evangelical Protestant from my parents.
Okay.
But I have always sort of been connected to the American Baptist family. So grew up in an ABC church. My parents were lay leaders, always active in the church. And so faith formation in a local congregation is definitely deeply rooted in me.
Okay.
But didn't sense a call to ministry until, let's say, mid-20s, after I started a career in the retail industry.
Okay.
That congregation was instrumental in developing that call.
Okay.
And when I finally made the move to go back to school to attend seminary, I moved across country to California.
Wow.
To Northern Cal to attend an American Baptist seminary.
Okay.
Back then it was called the American Baptist Seminary of the West,
Okay.
now known as Berkeley School of Theology.
Oh, wow.
And began even more deeply rooted in Christian vocation, but also American Baptist identity that I then began to choose rather than just inherit from my
Nice.
upbringing.
Nice.
So since then, I ministered there as a pastor. I served on the staff of the seminary, lived there for about almost 14 years. Was
Okay.
called to ministry in Wisconsin, of all places. So from the East Coast
Burr.
to the West Coast.
Yes.
To the northern Midwest to serve as a regional executive minister of the American Baptist churches there. And then moved here to Pennsylvania,
Okay.
2001. First with ABC USA, and I've been here at ABHMS since August 2022,
Okay.
serving as Director of Intercultural Ministries with, an awesome unit,
Yes.
and really living into what I feel is the core of my sense of ministry, my call to ministry.
Amen. Amen. So, share with us a little bit about what has challenged you through your academic and professional ministry career as a woman of color.
Yeah, so I think as I reflect back on that, I think one of the biggest challenges is having a sense of who I am in the midst of a larger family of faith that I felt connected to right from the beginning of my ministerial journey. And having come from the secular world, growing up in places that I did, knew how to code switch really well.
Okay.
Both in
So for those who may not know, because I get it, but there are people who don't really know what that is. Why don't you share a little bit?
Knowing how to move about in spaces that have been shaped and formed by dominant population.
Okay.
In the U.S., much of that is male-dominated. My first career was in retail, so I had a lot of good examples of female leaders, so that wasn't necessarily the case. But certainly things that might have been shaped by sort of white cultural norms.
Okay.
And so as a woman of color, an Asian woman, a Filipino woman in the midst of that, right? So there's all these different layers, is learning who am I authentically? And what is that unique voice that I bring so that I can be authentic in God's call to me, in particular, into ministry.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah. So just learning how to both be effective and learn, but then also saying, well, okay, but what is my voice?
Right.
And how do I authentically be me, all that God has created me to be in those spaces? That's been a journey.
Yeah, so that was pretty challenging. But
Yeah.
hey, you've done it well. So the last thing I'll ask is, what advice would you give a young member of the AAPI community who is thinking about or feeling led to pursue professional ministry?
I think I would say, take seriously the challenge of finding the balance between solidarity and particularity. So that's sort of connected to my answer to your second question. Solidarity in that, I embrace my call as an interculturalist, so it's not just about finding my own voice, but how do we make space for everyone, all of God's people, and how do we do that in a way where everybody can authentically engage from where they are and from who they are. And so you have to learn how to find places of connection in everyone's story, as different as they are, and learn how to empathize, learn how to advocate for, even though that may not be your particular experience, but finding solidarity in the larger voice, because ultimately we're called to be one family of God, right? Yes. But then it's that challenge of the particularity, like not getting just lost in the larger purpose, but knowing that God created us before we were in our mother's womb, right? And had a plan for us. And so taking that challenge to find faithfully how we can be ourselves. As an AAPI woman in ministry, we can say we're a small population of a larger witness of amazing ministers. And then even within Asian, so Filipinos one piece. So finding that particularity while still being in solidarity with others.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. I think that's some great advice. And so we're going to sign it out for now. Again, this is Reverend Dr. Marie Onwubuariri, and I'm Minister Dr. Shante Barrett, and we are part of ABHMS.